We'll meet again, Spider-Man. Oh, I promise you, we'll meet again. Welcome back, folks. I hope y'all are having a good day today. It is the great Sage Alexander, and I'm here to rank some Spider-Man movies. No Way Home has come out. I haven't seen it yet, but I promise you, I will. And in honor of that movie coming out, I'm gonna rank all the Spider-Man movies. Yes, including the Venom movies. Because Spider-Man, Spider-Man is one of my favorite superheroes of all time. Like, I loved him as a kid. All the movies, all the cartoons that I've seen. Disclaimer, I have not read the comics. I have not started reading the comics until somewhat recently. My apologies. Like, child me just loved Spider-Man so much. Like, I had a whole bunch of action figures. I had a whole bunch of video games. I had a Spider-Man pillow. I had a Spider-Man pillow, a Spider-Man birthday party, and Spider-Man bed sheets. I was a fan. To say I was a fan is kind of an understatement. And I just want to look at these. I just want to look at these movies and rank them critically. Y'all can have a different opinion. I'd like to hear how you guys would rank all the Spider-Man movies. Let's do this. You all saw this one coming. You all saw this coming. Bottom tier is the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Quick disclaimer: the way I'm ranking these, I'm just going from like movies that I liked the least to movies that I liked the most. It's not a top 10. It's not a top 10 or anything like that. It's just which movies do I love the most. The ranking stops mattering at like the top 3. All right, so the Amazing Spider-Man movies. They weren't outright terrible. Like, they were still fun. I still had my Spider-Man fun from it. Like, it's just, well, for a number of things. Like, the first movie I rank above the second, honestly. Mainly because the second one had not my Green Goblin in it. It was, the Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 2 is terrible. It is terrible. Why did they do it? I do not care. I do not care about that. I do not care about that version of Harry Osborn. No matter how much they try to shoehorn in that him and Peter were friends. No, you weren't. Stop telling us and start showing us. You're shoehorning him in. The only positives from it. Also, I almost forgot. Rhino. I almost forgot. Totally not the Ironmonger, aka Rhino. Why did y'all give him a mech suit? Why did y'all give him a crappy mech suit? That was garbage. Get up on out of here with that. The only good part of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was, well, stuff with Gwen, and Electro was okay. I'm glad he's coming back. I'm glad Jamie Foxx is coming back for a different Electro. Give this man a shot. Now, as for the Amazing Spider-Man 1, the only issue I really had with it was Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Look, what I'm about to say isn't original. He is way too cool to be Peter Parker. Look, I like my Peter Parker to be a nerd. I don't care how comic accurate it is or whatever. Peter Parker to me will always be a dork. Andrew Garfield Peter is a hipster. He is a hipster douchebag. Like, that is how he comes off. I cannot buy this man getting bullied. I cannot imagine this guy getting bullied solely because of the fact that I can't imagine that guy caring about anything else. Like, he is literally too cool for his own good. Like, he does get the quippy aspect of Spider-Man. He does do a phenomenal job at that. Like, that scene where he first like hassles a criminal. Just like that scene where where the criminal pulls a knife on him, is like, that's my weakness. That is my weakness. Very small knives. Also guns, but very small knives. And then just webs him like, it's so easy solution. That was fun. That was fun, and I like that quippy aspect of Spider-Man. But Peter Parker, no, just no. Also, the stuff with Peter's dad, I didn't really care about. I'm sorry, I didn't really care about. The only lasting thing that the Amazing Spider-Man movies introduced was the stuff with Gwen Stacy. That's all they really had going for them. I'm sorry, but I just couldn't enjoy. I just couldn't really bring myself to put them up any higher. I just couldn't bring myself to put them up any higher. Oh, Jesus! Next up is the Venom movie. Firstly, I really do like that they decided to rehash Venom after the third Spider-Man movie. And honestly, they did a phenomenal job at that. Like, they did a really good did a really good job in designing Venom, and it's accurate. Like, also, I really do love Tom Hardy as Eddie. Like, most of his scenes, I'm really entertained. Like, the first scene where he realizes there's a symbiote in him, and he's just completely terrified. That is relatable. That is relatable. And I also really do love the whole two losers aspect between him and Venom. Like, hey, we're both losers. Maybe we can look out for each other. It's heartwarming. Like, really, my only big issue with this movie was its antagonist. Sorry, Riot, but there's only room for one symbiote that Venom's allowed to fight. There's only room for one in my heart. You can go on and get out of here. Overall, a pretty solid movie. Really good way of introducing a modern take on Venom.
There's Iron Man. Whoa, look at that new guy. Who's that?
Underoos?
That's my cue. I gotta go. I was there in a fight with Captain America, and I stole his shield and I threw it at him. What the hell? He's big now. I gotta go.
Next up, it's Spider-Man Homecoming. Spider-Man Homecoming. All right, a lot of folks do not like Iron Man Jr. Honestly, I don't solely have a problem with it. Like, I was hyped when Civil War dropped and it revealed this new Spider-Man. I was hyped. And I honestly think Tom Holland does a pretty good job at being this version of Spider-Man. You know, the child. Like, overall, Homecoming was a pretty solid movie. Like, pretty solid revamp for Spider-Man. I do like that they more or less skip over the origin story because we've already seen it twice by this point. Don't want to beat a dead horse. Uncle Ben needs to stop getting shot. Like, what I like most about Homecoming is that it really captures this aspect of a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Like, and it fits, and it goes into this version, like, it goes into Tom Holland Spider-Man's arc. Like, that entire movie, he's like, I went from fighting alongside Iron Man against Captain America to going right back to going back right to fighting bank robbers. But I'm ready. I just shown that I'm ready. Why aren't you like, I'm not a child anymore. I can handle this. And finally, by the end of the movie, him just having the opportunity to actually become Iron Man Jr. And he's just like, no, I think I should. I'm good where I'm at. Like, the neighborhood needs a Spider-Man. I think I'm fine for now. Pretty good, like, pretty good character development. Also, the Vulture. One of the best MCU villains. The Vulture, playing into the whole incredible style superheroes leaving collateral damage behind for everybody else to fix. And him just being like, you know, a literal vulture and just profiting off of those leftovers. Really solid. And he also works as a phenomenal contrast to Peter. Like, Peter wants to go big time. He doesn't want to be small time anymore. Vulture, in contrast, wants to stay small time so that guys like Iron Man don't get on his radar. And then he's kind of screwed. But then by the end, he's like, you know what? We're already deep into this. Let's double down. really solid movie, really solid reintroduction into Spider-Man after the Amazing Spider-Man kind of dropped the ball, in my opinion.
I'm not a crazy man. I am a vengeful one.
Oh shit! Soon comes chaos. Chaos soon come. Above Homecoming and above the original Venom movie, we have Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I love this movie. Like, for a multitude of reasons. Firstly, we have to talk about Carnage. We have to talk about it. Like, I love Carnage in this movie. Like, really solid origin story. Didn't need to get over-explained. Cletus just bit a piece of... Like, Cletus just ingested a bit of Venom, and now he's Carnage. You don't need that deep of an explanation. That's what Carnage is. He is a monster. Like, he is just a physical embodiment of a savage. He is a monster. He is that, honestly, set up in the beginning of the movie. He was that anger and that hunger that Venom had at the beginning of the movie. And honestly, it explains why Carnage is stronger than him. Because Venom states in the movie that he needs to eat people. Like, he is constantly talking about, like, I need this. I need to eat people. And because of Eddie's restrictions, Venom is weakened. Carnage is not. Cletus lets him eat people. He is not weakened. He is stronger. Also, because he is made out of blood, the more blood he gets, the stronger he gets. I really do love that explanation as to why Carnage is dominating Venom throughout most of this movie up until the ending. Also, speaking of Cletus Cassidy, thank God they didn't do what I thought they were going to. I thought, like, when I first saw the trailers, I thought they were going to go the Joker route and make Cletus Cassidy a philosophical villain that somewhat that talked about chaos philosophically, that a whole bunch of people would relate to. I'm glad they didn't go down that route. They made it certain that yes, he is poetic, but he is still a serial killer. Yes, he still has that depressing backstory, but he is still a serial killer. They made that perfectly clear. The first scene that we see him and Eddie together in, he is explaining to Eddie where he hid the bodies. I love that they fully went down that route, and he is masterfully played. Props to the actor that played Cletus Cassidy, because he did a really good job of getting that every scene he's in, capturing that aspect of at any moment he is going to go insane. Like, watch any interview with a serial killer. They are going, like, that tension is always there, and that actor captures that aspect of it. At any point, Cletus could flip his lid and just start going off on people. Also, I really do love this connection that he feels with Eddie. Like, the whole "we're not so different, you and I" aspect of it. You were my brother, Eddie. I felt I loved you, and you betrayed me. I really do love that aspect of it. And Venom's response, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. All right, switching gears to Venom. Once again, this was my first exposure to Venom before going back and watching the original Venom movie. I did not think I would like comedic Venom. But they made it work. They made it work. Venom being a homie to Tom Holland, to Eddie Brock, just being like, "Look, man, times are tough. I understand that. Come on, man. There's always more fish in the sea. Let's go eat some people." I want Venom to be my homie, because he is looking out for Eddie. He is looking out for his best interests. And then their relationship just deteriorates because it's not that good. It's a toxic relationship. Like, ironic, isn't it? It's a toxic relationship. Like, it's even, like, their argument before they split is even visually framed as domestic abuse. And he even calls it that when Venom does the meme scene. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break your nose. Let me fix it so I can break it again. That is abusive. Eddie calls him out on that before they finally split. Like, it's just overall a fun movie. Also, going back to Cletus one last time, I really like that they kept the villains' goals small scale so that it felt more interpersonal. Like, Cletus wasn't looking for causing chaos, bringing carnage, this, that, or the other. Granted, he most likely would have. He very likely would have. Him and his girl are serial killers. And speaking of, like, his goal, the only thing that Cletus wanted was just to get his girl back and to get some revenge. They just want a red wedding. That's all they wanted. It's interpersonal, and given their backstory, it makes sense why they're kind of screwed up in the head. Like, it makes sense. And you not really feel for them because they are psychopaths, but their goals are human. And overall, just a really solid movie. I'm sorry for y'all who are mad that I ranked it above Homecoming. It's I don't even know, just personal preference.
Excuse me, sir. I can help. Let me help. I'm really strong and I'm sticky.
And the last of the mid-tiers, ranking slightly above Let There Be Carnage, we have Far From Home. Personally, the main thing that's carrying this movie, it's Mysterio. Like, it's Mysterio. Like, I wanted this, like, there are two Spider-Man villains that I felt that I wanted to get their due, that I wanted to see them in the movies, get them some representation. One of them was Kraven the Hunter. Get on it, movies. Stop being cowards. Get my boy in there. If Kraven's not in No Way Home, I'ma be pissed. And the second one, it was Mysterio. Phenomenal job. Granted, it is another Iron Man villain, but I think they did a pretty good job. Like, all those illusions that he was doing, all those illusions that Mysterio was causing on Peter, like, that scene, that entire illusion section where he's just jumping back and forth between watching MJ die and then standing on top of Tony's grave when a zombie version of him came up out of the grave. That made me jump out of my seat like, oh my god! Oh my god! Because I called it. I wanted them to do something like that. And I loved that they did it. Give that boy some trauma. And then the jump scare of the train. It was so good. It was so good. Like, Mysterio is honestly just carrying that movie in my mind. Just being basically Tony Wozniak. Like, developing all this stuff and then getting no credit for it. That's the reason why he's pissed. Like, yeah, it is another Iron Man villain, but come on, it's pretty well done. And I do like the ruse that he puts up against people. Like, I do like the guys that he puts up until his reveal. Like, Mysterio being this heroic figure from another timeline. Like, it's pretty good timing, because after the death of Tony, Peter needs a hero. Peter needs somebody to look up to, because he is just in a terrible place. Like, having to literally take up the position of being Iron Man Jr. Like, he is just at a loss. Like, he is caught between being what everybody expects him to be, being Iron Man Jr., and just getting what he wants. He wants to just tell MJ have a good trip with MJ and tell her how he feels. And just Mysterio taking advantage of that. Like, hey, you're not a jerk for wanting something. You're not a jerk for that. Like, like it strikes like it pulls on your heartstring, only for the reveal to pull the rug out from under it. Like, the only parts of this movie that I didn't really like was the drones stuff was kind of Ida, she was okay. Ida was okay. Like, I at least like Tony being an egomaniac and just naming it just the mammogram that Ida is short for. And the only other thing that I didn't really like was the Nick Fury stuff. Like, especially with him being revealed to be a Skrull. Like, why not just have Nick Fury there? What? It doesn't change anything. Like, I understand tying things into Captain Marvel or whatever, but come on, let Nick Fury be there. Come on now. Like, also, all right. Let me talk about Peter's arc throughout this. Once again, the Iron Man Jr. argument. This movie finally answers those fears. He starts off as Iron Man Jr. as that's what's expected of him. But then by the end of the movie, after he fully comes to terms with, you don't have to be, Tony is dead. You don't have to be Tony. You can just be, you don't have to be the next Iron Man. Just be the best Spider-Man that you can be. And so he does by symbolically making his own suit, becoming Spider-Man again. Just keeping being Spider-Man. It's just really well. It's just pretty good. It's just well done, in my opinion. Like the different locations. I have not gotten tired of Marvel style comedy. I know a lot of people have. I haven't yet. Personally, it's my personally, like, it's up there in terms of MCU movies in my mind. But sadly, it's the top of the mid-tier Spider-Man movies because that ceiling is hard to break.
Now dig on this.
Get up! Get yourself together. Ride that funk soul. We're in the top tiers, folks. And yes, this movie is top tier. Y'all can fight me on that. I will fight this entire fandom on the Empire State Building. You best hope that Spidey saves you. Everybody gets one after all. Spider-Man 3 is my most nostalgic Spider-Man movie. I've seen it more times than every other Spider-Man movie. Well, almost every other Spider-Man movie. Like, I love the fact that now, much like the Star Wars trilogy, or much like the prequel trilogy in Star Wars, Spider-Man 3 is getting a lot more love that it rightfully deserves. It's finally escaped the public opinion of, oh, it's bad, it's the worst of the trilogy, it's the worst Spider-Man movie ever. Nah, it ain't. Y'all can get up on out of here with that. Come on now. Look, I will be transparent. Spider-Man 3 has its problems. I'll go ahead and name them now. Way too many villains. They did a really good job building up Sandman, but then he kind of gets forgotten about in the last half of the movie. They really dropped the ball with Venom. They set, like the marketing was set up. The Black Suit Spider-Man. They did a really good job with the Black Suit Spider-Man, and then they actually introduced Eddie Brock and Venom. I do not like either of them that much. Venom's design is cool in this one, and the symbiote stuff is cool. But Eddie Brock, I just do not like him. Like, he barely gets any time at all. Like his motivation for staying Venom is solid enough. Like the whole I like being mad, it makes me happy kind of thing. Like, I'm cool with that because it is essentially him lashing out, him, much like Peter, giving into those negative emotions and reveling in them. Like, it is solid, but come on, just give us more scenes with Eddie and give us more scenes with Venom and Eddie together to make me actually care about these villains. And then there's Harry. Amnesia was not that great. Like, it was plot convenience, if anything else. It was plot convenience. But I do like the final third of the movie, or I do like the middle section of the movie where he gets his memory back and then starts being a dick to Peter in full force. I really do love that. And let's talk about Bully Maguire. Peter is a nerd. It's not that he's doing what he it's not that he's being cool. What they thought the early 2000s definition of cool. He was a nerd doing what a nerd thought was cool. Either that, or you can have the interpretation of he just doesn't care. He is dancing he is dancing like nobody is watching. He does not care anymore. Like, and I really do love the explanation. Like, I really do love the, like, just, we get enough, like, the Venom suit comes to him at an absolutely terrible point in his life. His personal life is falling apart around him. And the Venom symbiote just kind of feeds into those negative emotions and makes him act on those negative thoughts that he may have had and makes him feel good. Like, it's catharsis. That's all it is. Like, it's just catharsis for Peter. It's not actually fixing anything, but it's making him feel good, which is all that he cares about at this point. Like, once again, I'll say it again. Sandman, shifting gears a bit. Sandman is a really well done villain. Like, I do like the retcon that he was the one that shot Uncle Ben by accident, because I really do love Peter's vengeance quest to get him to take him down, and then 5 minutes later, him trying to get praise from Aunt May, and then being mad that she doesn't praise him for murdering a dude. Like, it's just overall. Honestly, if it weren't for, like, look, I'm not gonna let my nostalgia goggles say this was the best movie of the trilogy. I'm not gonna let my nostalgia goggles say that much. But it is really well done. Like, is it the worst of the trilogy? By default, yes. But it's not a terrible movie. Come on now. It's not a terrible movie. Tell me y'all didn't feel something when Harry came back to save Peter and then died. Tell me y'all didn't feel that. Tell me y'all didn't feel Peter and MJ's relationship, like, breaking apart. Like, come on. It's overall a pretty good, it caps off the trilogy pretty well. And really all it needed was just Venom to get rehashed. And thank God that they did. Otherwise, this movie would probably be remembered a lot negatively for having this version of Venom. At this point in the video, order stops mattering. Except it kind of does, because out of the top 3, this one is my least favorite. That's right, come at me, fanboys. I'm talking about Spider-Man 2, what a lot of people consider the best superhero movie of all time. And honestly, fair argument. Y'all have already seen a whole bunch of videos by a whole bunch of better creators about why Spider-Man 2 is the best superhero movie of all time. I'm not gonna add much. I'm not gonna add anything really different to that argument. You know, like, I'm just gonna voice my opinion. I love the story why Peter gives up the suit. Like, it captures the aspect of Stan Lee wanted to make a hero that had problems. Spider-Man has problems. There are consequences in Peter's life that affect Spider-Man. God damn it. Take whatever this is. 3, 2, 1. You know, at this point in the video, order stops mattering. Except it kind of does. Because out of the top 3, this one is kind of my least favorite. I know. Come at me, fanboys. I'm talking about Spider-Man 2. What a lot of people consider the greatest superhero movie of all time. And honestly, rightfully so. Like, y'all have seen a whole bunch of different videos by a whole bunch of better creators about why Spider-Man 2 is the best superhero movie of all time. Like, I'm not gonna add much to the argument. I'm just gonna state my opinion. I love the story why Peter gives up the suit. Like, Stan Lee himself said that I wanted to create a hero that has problems. Spider-Man has problems. There are consequences to being Spider-Man, and there are consequences to being Peter Parker. Both sides have consequences for the other existing. Spider-Man loses his powers because Peter is mentally and emotionally in other places. He's more worried about his personal life falling apart because he is focused on being Spider-Man. These two go hand in hand. Like, it's a really well done explanation, and I really love all the scenes where he is just living a normal life, just trying his best to let things play out. His best to let things play out as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker. And it is relatable that Peter does just, I'm just done. I'm done being Spider-Man. All I have done, am I really making a difference? Am I really making a difference with people like JJ just dragging my name through the mud? I'm losing sleep. I'm struggling with college. The woman I love is with somebody else. My best friend hates me. Why bother? Just why bother? Ain't that foreshadowing? It's just a really well done downward spiral. And I love that MJ and Aunt May are the people to bring him back up again. All right, shifting gears to another unoriginal topic. Doc Ock. Well, the only original statement I'm going to have on this, I don't think Doc Ock is the best Spider-Man villain. This is the best Spider-Man villain. And we'll get to him a bit later. Doc Ock is still a well-done villain. It's still well done. Like, he is just a dude who wants to try and better mankind. His life falls apart, and he falls into his ego. Ego being represented by those octopus tentacles. He falls into his ego to focus on his work in spite of everything. He is going to make this happen, no matter what. And I really do love, well, for one thing, I just like the idea of him throwing hands with Spider-Man. He is a normal dude. Like, Dr. Octavian is a normal dude. Like, he's not a super villain or anything like that. He's not a super soldier. He's just a dude with octopus tentacles throwing hands with a guy who in this very same movie holds back a train. And we'll get to that scene in a second. The only reason he is able to effectively throw hands against Spidey is because Peter's head isn't in the game. At least not completely. Or should I say his heart isn't in the game. Because otherwise he would have laid Dr. Octopus out. He would have laid him out without a second thought. Like, Doc Ock is just a really well done villain, and I do like his turn by the end. Like, Peter convincing him, this isn't you. This isn't you. And Doc Ock sacrificing himself on the mentality that I'm not going to be remembered as this. I'm not going to be remembered as a monster. It's just heartwarming by the end. It's just heartwarming. And shifting gears to the train scene. Like, once again, as I previously stated, one of my favorite aspects of Spider-Man is him being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The community, in spite of everything, loves Spider-Man. They are willing to stand up for him. They are willing to fight for somebody who was damn near pulled apart trying to save them. They are willing to stand up for him. And I love that throughout this entire movie, more or less, everybody knows who Spider-Man is. Everybody knows. That one dude working with James Jonah Jameson talking like, I heard Spider-Man was there, and just dead staring Peter. He knew Aunt May, her not scolding Peter after abandoning her at the bank and then talking about Spider, like not a lot of people would dive 40 feet for an old woman like me. She knew. Come on now, she knew. And every person on that train now knows who Peter Parker is, and they don't care because he is one of them. He is a New Yorker. He is their Spider-Man. You mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York. More foreshadowing. It's just, that is heartwarming. That is just heartwarming. Them Christ style carrying him, gently putting him down, and them just being like, he's just a kid. And then when he wakes up, them promising not to tell anybody, keep this mask on, kid. Keep this mask on. It's just heartwarming. It's just heartwarming. That, like, Spider-Man is a symbol, honestly. Spider-Man is a symbol. He is their sense of community, and I love it. Spider-Man 2, really, really well done movie. Also, hold on, before I close this out, I didn't talk about Harry in this movie. I love his downward spiral. Like, failing at funding Doc Ock's experiments, hating Spider-Man for killing his dad, spoilers by the way, and then still caring about Peter, but hating him because he's continuously stands up for Spider-Man. And then by the end, finding out who Spider-Man really is. Perfect setup for the next movie. Perfect setup. Top tier movie. It deserves all the praise that it gets. It's just personal favoritism that is keeping it from the top. Top 2, baby! Top 2! And what better to kick off the top 2 than the movie that started it all? But Great Sage, why is this ranked above the second Spider-Man movie? 2 reasons, really. Reasoning number 1, Spider-Man was the original. It set the precedent. Every single modern superhero movie has to credit the original Spider-Man from 2000. They have to thank it. Because without this movie's success, we would not have the MCU today. We wouldn't. Plain and simple. Like, superhero movies were drowning. Like, superhero movies were in the late 90s were drowning. The only good one out of the bunch was Blade. Blade was the only other movie that saved the superhero franchise from dying, from going the same route as Westerns. Like, everything that's fucking goddamn it. Why did I kick it? All right. Take 2. 1, 2, 3. Top 2, baby! We are in the top 2. Really, this is just 1A and 1B. But 1A is slightly higher up than 1B. And we kick off the top 2 with the original Spider-Man from 2000. But Great Sage, why is this one above Spider-Man 2? For 2 main reasons, really. I'll get into number 1. It was the original. Everything after that takes credit for this movie. Every single superhero movie that has come out in the past 20 years, in some way, shape, or form, has the original Spider-Man to thank. Because this was the first modern superhero blockbuster. It made bank. It made $150 million on opening weekend. Come on now. Without the original Spider-Man, we would not have the MCU today. Heck, I'd argue we wouldn't have the DCU today. Because without this movie's success, the superhero movies would have died in the 90s. Like, those movies were drowning in the 90s. The only good one out of the bunch was Blade. Blade was the only good one out of the bunch, and it inspired Sony to give Spider-Man a chance, to give Sam Raimi a chance at making a good superhero movie, and he knocked it out of the park. All right, let me get into reasoning 2. It's why it ranks above Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is just carrying on the themes of Spider-Man 1. And you want to know what I mean by that? Let me talk about the best Spider-Man villain of all time. Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin.
Deliver us.
Finish it! Finish it! Green Goblin is the best Spider-Man villain of all time, and that is a hill I am willing to die on. Why, you may ask? Y'all have seen the scene. Y'all have seen the scene. Y'all have seen it parodied on TikTok. Y'all have seen it when y'all saw the actual movie, because let's face it, y'all have. Come on, it's the highest grossing superhero movie of all time. Come on now. Or at least it was. I don't know if Endgame topped it or not. Well, I'm pretty sure Endgame would have topped it by this point, but you know what? Whatever. Y'all have seen the scene, and you know what? I'm gonna paraphrase it. I'm gonna paraphrase it for y'all, just to hammer it in. You wanna know what they love more than a hero? They love to see a hero fail, to fall, to die trying, in spite of everything that you've done for them. Eventually they'll hate you. So why bother? That sentiment is echoed throughout the entire trilogy. No, not just the entire trilogy. Every single Spider-Man movie that has followed it has echoed this sentiment. You can sacrifice everything again and again and again and again, and it still won't be enough. I am so hyped that the Green Goblin is in No Way Home, because I want to see what he spits against Tom Holland's Spider-Man this time. I want to see what philosophy he is spitting this time. Because look at the original trilogy. Look at the original trilogy laid out. Look at it laid out and think about that theme. What is Spider-Man 2's main plot? Peter gives up on being Spider-Man because it becomes too much of a weight on him. Because the public still hates him. They still consider him a freak. They still consider him a vigilante because of J. Jonah Jameson. Also, best casting ever. Best casting ever. What is the plot of the third movie? Peter gives into his darkness because his personal life is falling apart because of being Spider-Man. And once again, the public is becoming skeptical of Spider-Man because they're seeing him being more brutal because he is giving it to his dark side. Echoing throughout the trilogy. Green Goblin was right. But in the same way, he was wrong, because the public do still love Spider-Man. Look at the bridge scene. You mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York. Them throwing garbage at the Green Goblin. Look at the train scene that I mentioned earlier. Them looking out for Spider-Man. You want to get through Spider-Man, you got to go through me. The public still loves Spider-Man because he is one of them. He is one of them. He is their friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I just love those themes. I just love that theme throughout the trilogy. You know what? Let's look at Peter for a second. You want to create a relatable protagonist? That's a pretty good job. For most of the movie, we follow Peter. We do not follow Spider-Man. We follow Peter Parker's life as he comes to terms with the powers that he's gotten. The allegory for puberty, coming into his own, becoming a man, and taking responsibilities. And the Uncle Ben scene. People get mad about rehashing Uncle Ben over and over again, but you want to know why they keep rehashing it over and over again? It's because it worked. How many of y'all, when y'all first saw the first Spider-Man movie, how many of y'all cried when Uncle Ben died? How many at least teared up? if your hand is not up, you have no soul. You have no soul. Because they gave us every single reason to care about Uncle Ben, to care about what it means for Peter, and that extra venom that Peter could have prevented it. Adds more weight to the "with great power comes great responsibility." Adds so much weight to that sentence. And you know what? Let's talk about the whole movie as a whole. I just love the over-the-top campy feeling. Like, the entire movie is campy. Come on, it was made in the early 2000s. What did you expect? Also, it's a comic book movie. I don't need everything to be taken seriously. Come on, I don't need everything to be taken seriously. Like the MCU does now. I don't need, like, the villains can have some levity to them. They don't have to be over-the-top world enders. It can just be a dude being insane. It can just be a dude being insane, screaming, "We'll meet again, Spider-Man," melting people in some Spy Kids level visual effects. Come on now. Like you're not meant to take it seriously, but the emotional scenes you are. Like, in between those scenes, you have the final fight between Goblin and Peter. The most brutal superhero fight scene that I've ever seen. Ever. Well, excluding stuff from Logan. This is the most brutal. Like, this pushed its rating. This really pushed its rating because it was just brutal. Just Peter getting the snot beaten out of him again and again and again and again. Just Jesus. The brutality of it all. It's just really good. It's just a really well done It's just a really well done movie as a whole. It's just so good. It's just so good. And I'm not saying this out of any sense of nostalgia. I saw this movie like 2 months ago. I have no real nostalgia for it. I've already stated that Spider-Man 3 is my nostalgia Spider-Man movie. But I still can say with confidence, this is the best movie out of the trilogy. Y'all can fight me on this. But sadly, there's one standing above all of it. There is one standing above all of it.
You're on your way.
When do I know I'm Spider-Man?
You won't. That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith.
Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger?
That's right, folks. My favorite Spider-Man movie of all time is Into the Spider-Verse. Why? Well, here's why. What I love most about Spider-Man, why he is one of my favorite heroes of all time, his relatability. Anyone can be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This movie captures that perfectly. In any other scenario, it would have felt cheap. Oh, every universe has a Spider-Man. That just cheapens his top. That just cheapens it. That just makes Spider-Man feel cheap. It doesn't make him feel special. Nope. It does the opposite. It makes Spider-Man feel even more special. Anyone can put on that mask. Spider-Man is a symbol. He's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He is the everyman. And I just love that about him. Never have I related to a character in a movie more than I've related to Miles Morales. This ain't biasy talking. This is just me personally. I related to his struggle. I related to his insecurity, invalidating himself, initially thinking that he's not good enough to carry on, to recognize his actual effort it took to get into the school that he did, and B, carry on the title of being Spider-Man. He does not think he's worthy of it, or at least he doesn't think he's ready. And that leap of faith speech, never before have I felt that in my soul more. Like, I relate to Miles in that chair scene. Like, I related to Miles in that chair when he was tied up in that chair. How will I know when I'm ready? How will I know when I'm ready? You don't. You won't know. It's a leap of faith. Miles, I relate to you. Not just throughout my life, but currently. Like, I felt that in my bones. And then, what's up, Danger? He finally gets the confidence. He finally gets the confidence that he needed to go up to not be his universe's Spider-Man, but to be Miles Morales Spider-Man. Not just Peter A. Parker, whichever universe that is. He's gonna be Miles Morales Spider-Man. His way. And that's one of my favorite scenes in movie history. What's up, Danger? Like, what, like, I don't even know what else to say. Like, Into the Spider-Verse, like, y'all know why people love Into the Spider-Verse. Y'all know why. Like, I can't really add much else. It just captures that aspect to me. It just captures that aspect to me. Anyone can be Spider-Man. Anybody. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter what you look like. It does not matter what gender you are. It doesn't matter what color you are. Anybody can be the Spider-Man. That's it, folks. I hope y'all have had a good time. I hope y'all have a good day. I'll catch y'all later.